Wonderful. All right. In our program today, we are hosting and very honored to host Natalia Petrenko. She has been doing some heroic work, her and her team, to preserve Ukraine scholarly and historical culture during the time of war. Now, Natalia has asked us to share a video that she and her team prepared for us today. So we are going to start this the webinar with Natalia and her team's video. And after that, we will move on to our discussion as a group.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Petrenko. I am the director of the Korolenko Kharkiv State Scientific Library and a member of Presidium of the Ukraine Library Association. Thank you very much for the opportunity of the share our experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Boaz, would you like to introduce yourself to our audience today?
Sure. Thank you, Gali. My name is Boaz Nadav-Manes. I work in Lehigh University Library. It's a university located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I've been a part of the project that we're talking about today for the last 3 years, but I'll talk a little more about the 20 years or so of me trying to work it out. Very excited to be here and very moved by us trying to do something of significance together. Thank you.
Thank you, Boaz. Sebastian, over to you.
Thank you, Gali, and thank you, everybody. I am Sebastian Hammer. I am the co-founder of Index Data, which is a small software company that was originally founded in Denmark some 31 years ago. And we and have always been very involved in collaborative technology projects of different kinds, often involving open source software.
Wonderful, thank you. And Alicia? Go
Hi,
ahead.
everyone. I'm Alicia, Gali's colleague at CLOCKSS. And it's such a privilege, really, to be part of this conversation today, because we're going to hear in a moment from Natalia, a really moving story about a crisis in Ukraine now that's ongoing. And then we will also be having a broader discussion about what museums, libraries, and archives can do to work together to better prepare to support one another when future crises come about. And there'll also be ways to provide tangible support to Natalia as well. So thank you all for joining us. It's really a privilege.
Thank you, everyone. As Alicia said, my name is Gali. I work with Alicia at CLOCKSS, and together we do and work and try to really spread the importance of preservation, as you will see today. Thank you for joining. I will be playing the video that Natalia and her team prepared for us today. And then later on, we will start our discussion. Thank you for your attention.
From the first days of the full-scale invasion, libraries, archives and museums in Ukraine have been under unprecedented threat of destruction, looting and loss of collections. As of September 2025, Russian aggression has destroyed and damaged more than 1,599 cultural heritage sites and 2,415 cultural infrastructure sites, 491 of which have been completely destroyed. The regions of Donetsk, Kharkiv, Kherson, Kyiv, Sumy and Mykolaiv have suffered the greatest losses. In total, more than 1,000 libraries have been damaged, including national, state, regional, scientific libraries of higher education institutions and 975 public libraries. Among national book repositories, the Korolenko Kharkiv State Scientific Library suffered the most damage. As a result of Russian armed aggression between 2022 and the first half of 2025, Ukraine lost 5,347,000 items from its library collections. The case of the Oles-Honka-Kherson Regional Universal Scientific Library is particularly tragic. During the occupation, more than 30,000 books were stolen and local history collections were taken to Russia. After the de-occupation, library staff documented war crimes, inventoried losses, and partially resumed work. Rare books and photo archives were evacuated to safe regions, with the active assistance of volunteers. Amidst bombings, power cuts, lack of heating and transport difficulties, Ukrainian libraries have managed to refocus their activities. The most important priorities today are preserving collections, digitizing the most valuable materials and ensuring access to information even during wartime. The Ukrainian government has introduced an action program for the protection and restoration of cultural heritage, recognizing culture as one of the state's key priorities. By the end of 2025, at least 10 monuments are expected to be restored, over 100,000 objects digitized, the Cultural Heritage Preservation Fund established, and over 180 cultural and creative initiatives supported. Economic losses in the cultural and creative industries amount to approximately $23 billion. Therefore, Ukraine continues to attract international support, which will amount to more than $3 million by the end of the year. The Ministry of Culture and Strategic Communications coordinates comprehensive support for restoration work, digitization, infrastructure restoration and the evacuation of valuable collections from frontline areas. During the war, international solidarity became a decisive factor in preserving cultural heritage. Ukrainian libraries joined forces with government agencies, public and international organizations such as UNESCO, ALIPH, WMF, CER, BRDA, IFLA, Blue Shield, SUCHO and others to preserve national memory and protect cultural objects. This made it possible to create a global support network aimed at protecting cultural sites and documentary heritage. In early 2023, the Conference of European National Librarians, CENL, conducted a large-scale survey on support for Ukrainian libraries. The results covered a wide range of assistance, from grants and scholarships to equipment transfers, consultations and professional training, which helped coordinate European efforts in line with Ukraine's needs. With the assistance of the ULA, 5 leading libraries of Ukraine, the Yaroslav Mudry National Library of Ukraine, the National Historical Library of Ukraine, the Odessa National Scientific Library, the Central Scientific Library of the Kharkiv National University, and the Korolenko Kharkiv State Scientific Library, which store documents of the State Library Fund in their collections, received significant international support. Within the framework of the ALIPH grant program, their material and technical base was strengthened by the amount of $75,000. Within the framework of the project, the following items were purchased for these libraries: scanners, including a professional scanner for digitizing newspaper collections, server and network storage devices, various equipment for stabilizing the microclimate in book storage facilities, a chamber for disinfecting rare documents, acid-free cardboard boxes, restoration materials and paper products for preserving collections. One of the most successful examples of international partnership is the project, Mobile Stations for the Protection and Digitization of Library Collections, launched in 2023 in collaboration with the National Library of the Czech Republic, the Yaroslav Mudry National Library of Ukraine, and the Ukrainian Library Association. The goal of the initiative is to create 2 mobile laboratories, ARCA-1 for the conservation of damaged documents and ARCA-2 for the digitization. The total amount of support exceeded 18 million hryvnias. The ARC-1 mobile workshop, which is already operating in Ukraine, is equipped with equipment for cleaning, preserving, vacuum packing and checking the physical condition of documents damaged as a result of the war. In 2025, more than 350 documents were processed in just a few months, including 200 books from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, 35 newspaper binders from the Kherson Library collection, and 70 archival documents from collections in Kyiv and Kharkiv. The project became a model for the mobile rescue of library collections in wartime. The international volunteer community SUCHO, Saving Ukrainian Cultural Heritage Online, has made a significant contribution to the preservation of digital collections. It has brought together more than 1,500 specialists from 38 countries who have archived more than 5,000 websites of Ukrainian cultural institutions since the beginning of the invasion, securing more than 50 terabytes of data. In 2023, SUCHO implemented a project to supply power stations and generators for the energy independence of libraries, archives and museums. In addition, 70 institutions received equipment for digitization. All this made it possible to continue measures to preserve collections even during blackouts. Other SUCHO initiatives include providing building materials to help restore institutions in liberated territories and educational resources for cultural workers. Another important example is the provision of remote server capacity for storing digital documents about the war. This initiative was implemented by the International Archive Portico in accordance with a memorandum with the Ukrainian Library Association as part of a nationwide project to archive important evidence about the Russian-Ukrainian war. The Blue Shield International Initiative actively cooperates with Ukrainian specialists in the field of cultural property protection. In partnership with Polycam, Virtue, Blue Shield Denmark and the Danish Commission for UNESCO, the Backup Ukraine app has been created, allowing users to capture cultural heritage sites in 3D. These digital models will form the basis for the future restoration of destroyed monuments. The German project, Protection of Cultural Property, Kulturgutschutz Ukraine, is also being implemented in Ukraine, providing cultural institutions with packaging materials, firefighting equipment, and devices for digitization and restoration. The Institute of Contemporary History, IFZ, Munich, Berlin, coordinates the collection and delivery of aid through the network, Protection of Cultural Property in Ukraine, which was established with the support of the German federal government. The European initiative, Laptops for Ukraine, launched by the European Commission, the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine and the association, Digital Europe, supplies laptops, smartphones and scanners to libraries and schools in affected regions, supporting digital documentation and access to information. The International Committee for Museums and Collections, CIMM, has developed practical recommendations for protecting library and museum collections, from packing them in waterproof containers to evacuating the most valuable artifacts to storage facilities with a controlled microclimate. In Ukraine, these principles are being implemented by the team, Assortmentna Kimnata, in Ivano-Frankivsk, which provides temporary safe storage for evacuated art collections and archives. Among Ukrainian examples, it is worth noting the project, Rescue of Unique Books of Kharkiv University, aimed at preserving rare collections of the Central Scientific Library of Kharkiv National University. The goal is to create digital copies, physically protect the originals in fireproof cabinets, and provide open access through the International Scriptorium Archive. The Vernadsky National Library of Ukraine has been actively working to preserve rare collections and its digitize. Thanks to the support of CENL and the National Libraries of Germany, Poland, Sweden and France, scanners, servers and computer equipment have been purchased. The British and Berlin state libraries provided comprehensive conservation equipment, facilitated the restoration of manuscripts, old prints and archival documents, and enlisted the help of Aleph, ICON and ICOM to deliver materials to Ukraine. Additional technical support was provided by the Royal Library of Sweden, the Royal Academy and the National Library of Poland, which financed scanners and firefighting equipment, significantly strengthening the library's capacity to preserve the national cultural heritage. The Korolenko Kharkiv State Scientific Library is systematically working to preserve its collections in the conditions of a frontline city. At the beginning of the war, with the support of the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine, rare editions and manuscripts were evacuated, and international partners, the Harvard Ukrainian Research Institute, USA, and the Sucho Initiative, contributed to the preservation of digital collections. Thanks to financial support from the Aleph Foundation and assistance from the Go Museum for Change, the building was protected, more than 500 windows were boarded up with OSB panels and film, and grants from the World Monuments Fund, WMF, and Cultural Emergency Response, CER, made it possible to repair the roof and install a protective cover over the skylight. Sucho provided digitization equipment, servers and dehumidifiers, the Heritage Emergency Response Initiative provided generators, and the Save the Spot initiative organized fundraising for the restoration. Thanks to the American Fund, Global Empowerment Mission, GEM, and Howard G. Buffett Foundation, HGBF, 383 damaged windows were replaced, and the Japan Trust Fund, with the support of UNESCO, provided fire extinguishers, restoration paper and building materials. This assistance has significantly strengthened the library's capacity to preserve its documentary heritage, digitize its collections and create safe conditions for working with the collections in wartime. The experience of Ukrainian libraries demonstrates that even in the extremely difficult conditions of war, cultural institutions are capable of effectively preserving their collections and documents. A combination of professional resilience, international cooperation and modern technologies has formed an effective model for preserving heritage in times of crisis. This experience is valuable for the global rescue collecting network, as it shows how joint efforts by local initiatives and international partners contribute to the protection of cultural values. In a situation of ongoing hostilities and growing threats, the preservation of collections requires enhanced coordination of international efforts and sustainable support programs, including the development of cloud storage, improved digital security, and the provision of logistical support to cultural institutions operating in high-risk areas.
I'm sure you who just seen this video are probably moved, shocked from what you've seen. And again, I would like to deeply thank Natalia for not only producing the video, but also being here with us today and answering some questions and participating in the discussion. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we've seen. Alicia, can I start with you? Could you talk about what we do at CLOCKSS and especially why this type of topic is something that we think is important to talk about right now, as considering other presentations we've done before? You're muted, Alicia.
Thanks, Gali. Sorry about that. So CLOCKSS is a digital archive. It's one of many digital archives around the world. We don't deal with print collections. And Natalia's video is just really sobering because of the scale of international response that has been mobilized and that needed to be mobilized, and the scale of destruction which has happened so swiftly. So we need to be more mindful in the libraries, archives, and museum communities around the world about how we more effectively join up our services to be responsive and to be proactive in preserving materials before crises happen. CLOCKSS played a tiny role in this. We preserved publications from Ukrainian learned societies like the Ukrainian Dental Association, but it's not really been possible to surface that little contribution or to know what was happening in other organizations around the world. And there was a lot of effort spent in trying to figure out what would be helpful or not. So Boaz and Sebastian and their vision for how we can work better together in future is really moving. Let me stop there.
Okay, which brings me really to the next question, which is for Sebastian and Boaz. Boaz, maybe we could start with you. Can you describe the CSLP, how it came about, and why rescue collecting is something that you and Sebastian and your partners are really focusing on?
Sure. And I also want to say how moving this video was, and it's kind of hard to follow that video in more practical kind of really like what we're working on right now. But what I hope is that, you know, like whatever we're working on is going to be supplementing some of the excellent work that was described. I know that many libraries and librarians are very moved and want to do the right thing and help Ukraine and the libraries there. And when I say many, I mean really many. Like I think that, you know, some of the efforts I believe are focused on various libraries that can afford it or that are already quite involved in work like this. And I hope that CCLP and the way that it can mobilize librarians to invest basically more time and effort in helping emergency situations like the one that is now happening in Ukraine is going to be beneficial for our community of professionals.
And also, well, sorry to stop. Can you tell our viewers who might not be familiar with CCLP what it is briefly, and
sure. Sorry.
And talk a little bit about this rescue collecting project that you have launched?
Will do.
Yeah.
So CCLP stands for Collaborative Collections Lifecycle Project. This is an IMLS-funded project that is ending now, actually, after 3 years of work. NISO was the principal on this project. So this is the National Standards Association in the US. And we've been working across many stakeholders in the US, Canada, and European cultural organizations to come up with standards and prototyping for a way for libraries to collaborate more in unison with each other. So to avoid some of the duplicate work that we're all busy doing, and figure out ways by which a community of experts can daily work with each other, which is quite a different situation than what it is right now. Right now, lots of libraries are working in isolation or in a particular mission that is unique to their individual institutions. CCLP is trying to put things together and help libraries in anywhere they are, basically, to invest more of their time in supporting vision-driven initiatives and like helping with rescue collecting. So if all of us could avoid some of the duplicate work and duplicate expertise and put more effort into investing into Ukraine, we can do better.
And can I turn to Sebastian for just one moment? Sebastian, I know that you are working on the infrastructure, also the technical side. Could you share with the audience what that means? This collective collections and especially rescue collecting?
Sure, thank you. So I think CCLP is trying to do two big things. One is, as Boaz says, we're trying to think about what information technology can do to support some of the types of initiatives that we saw in the video. But we're also trying to think about what types of communities that we can build around the design and the requirements and understanding about what that technology needs to do. So that's some of the community building aspect behind CCLP. To make it really concrete, what CCLP aims to do is to aggregate the types of data that you might need to make collective decisions about things like rescue collecting, but also other types of collecting. So that involves metadata about what is held in libraries. It might involve metadata about what is available from members of the supply chain. It might involve information about what has been digitized. Then it involves creating technical support for collaboration between people to look at that metadata and make decisions about what needs to be acquired, what is maybe already well taken care of, what needs to be digitized. So some of it is, you can almost think of CCLP as a combination of a big aggregation of metadata, incorporating as many sources as necessary to support a project. And then think of it as a social network built around a list of materials that is deemed at risk for whatever reason. And you've looked at situations in the video where that was caused directly by acts of aggression and wartime. It could also be book bans. It could be natural disasters making collections unavailable. So it is really about trying to figure out how we bring together different types of metadata and then support libraries and other types of organizations that could be anything from again, vendors to digital archives to infrastructure providers to storage facilities to combine and support data-driven decisions down to the individual item level.
Right. It's fascinating, the work that you do. And to our audience, I asked Natalia some questions in advance, so she feels more comfortable answering in writing. And my question to her was if she could describe what's the daily reality like for the library right now, and what kind of materials are at most risk. And she asked me to read the following answer. So what she's saying that in 2022, the building of the Korolenko Kharkiv State Scientific Library suffered a significant damage. As you saw in the video, more than 11,000 copies of the library collection were damaged by water, 545 windows shattered, so you can imagine what that did to the collections. And what Natalia is saying is that all the collective's efforts are focused on preserving the library collections and repairing the damaged buildings. She's saying we provide user services mainly remotely, including electronic document delivery, online references, access to databases, and digital collections. And she adds that since 2023, stationary services have been partially restored at the request of users. All the events, conferences, book presentations, meetings are held online. Classes are organized to support the mental and psychological health of our colleagues, Natalia's colleagues, and visitors. So I really want to emphasize that it's not only a library that is, scholarly and academic, but it's also, as Natalia said, has a mental and psychological effects on the people who use it. Natalia says that they are creating a digital archive of documents about the Russian-Ukrainian war, and in order to restore full-fledged work, they are implementing project activities and international cooperation. And I wanted to tell all of our participants that Alicia put in the chat a link to a resource. If any of you would like to get involved and assist, you can go to that link and see how you can contribute. And I would like to go back to the issue of preservation in times of crisis. Alicia, what lessons do you think? I mean, even you and I, while we were working on this and working on other projects, right? What kind of lessons would you like to share with our audience regarding from a preservation perspective?
Well, I've been learning a lot from Natalia, and I'm grateful for her sharing her experience. It just brings home the importance of preparation in order to preserve our shared culture and heritage and knowledge. We need to be preserving important materials in advance, in multiple places, in multiple geographies. There's an incredibly powerful role to play in international archiving in a distributed sense. It's just fundamental for all of us, and all of our collections need to be replicated elsewhere. So that's the key thing from a preservation perspective. But I was also really struck by the powerful information in Natalia's video about the importance of kind of practical physical equipment and other support that needed to be mobilized quickly. That hasn't really been in my mindscape at all. The generators, the conservation equipment, the digitizers, the laptops, all of this. I don't quite know how we contribute to this, but it needs greater thought. I was also struck by her bravery and her colleagues' bravery. They're very gentle in mentioning a reference to the human impact of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. But people have died, people are traumatized, and all of this rescue collecting work is happening in that context. And I don't think those of us who are far removed from this sort of crisis can actually really imagine what this must be like. So again, I'm just going to stop and listen.
No, that was very accurate. And Boaz, can we go back to the idea of CCLP to organize around rescue collecting, and especially, I know this project is specifically for Ukraine, Could you and Sebastian give our audience a little bit more details on that? How does it work? Even who they need to contact if they wanted to participate, and how?
Yes, so we are just, frankly, we're at the beginning of a journey here, and we are learning as we go. So like things that have been described today are things that we are just keeping our eyes open and our hearts open to. We are now running, we're trying to put that infrastructure together. And as Sebastian said, you know, the metadata is an essential piece of the social network around CCLP. So when we're thinking about where do we get the metadata to run this infrastructure, there are various places. For example, the libraries that have been just described as generators of metadata on a regular basis. We're thinking about partnering with possible vendors and providers in the region that are working with the American and Canadian institutions to complement the data, and also thinking about the fulfillment cycle. So like if, you know, CCLP selectors or decision makers will be deciding to buy or obtain various copies of a at-risk item, there's going to be a way to do that. And this discussion today, I mean, the essential piece here is to kind of think how we close the cycle between an intent to save a book or a material and its lasting preservation. So thinking, you know, how can we partner with CLOCKSS is essential for this work, because we'd love to have a way to indicate to the CCLP experts that the items that have been elected by them to be preserved have a good, safe harbor, and like I think CLOCKSS can definitely help us thinking about those things. We're trying to partner with as many institutions that have something to do with this life cycle to make sure that those items are going to be preserved in a community sense. So CCLP will also have, we hope, a communication way to talk with each other, to build a community around the work. And that's also somewhat metadata related, but definitely related on trust that people will have in a mechanism and the system to help us to be successful. And trust is hard to gain. So we are very much hoping to build a community around that vision for CCLP, that we can help each other to do the right thing by evolving together into an infrastructure that supports a community.
Kelly, you might be on mute.
So the community is a big part of your work. And Sebastian, so for anyone who's listening right now, who's coming from a library that has an interest in rescue collecting and wants to take part in this project for Ukrainian scholarship, rescue collecting, what would be their first step? What would they need to do?
I think, Boaz, we should make sure that we have a link in the chat. Just
Oh,
so
yes,
people
that's a good idea.
getting
Yeah.
chat is probably the best strategy. But I would invite people that are interested to follow along and get involved. We would love to build a network, both of experts, of subject matter experts within Ukraine that might be interested in participating in the effort of determining and helping to set priorities, but certainly also libraries in Europe and elsewhere that are interested in participating and supporting this effort.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea to actually have a link in there. Great, thank you, Boaz. And before we move on, we have a question. Somebody, Francis, go ahead. I think you can unmute yourself. Francis Pinter. You can, I think you can unmute yourself. If it doesn't work for you, you can just put a question into the chat and we'll surface it to the panelists if the unmute doesn't work. Okay, while Francis is doing that, there is a question again to you, Sebastian and Boaz, and Alicia is bringing this up actually. Are there already established international standards for the metadata that you need, or does this need to evolve yet?
I think a large part of the grant-funded project that Boaz described was about understanding the landscape of existing standards and recommending best practices and new standards. And the answer is, I think, that there is a hodgepodge of existing standards, from representing library holdings to vendor catalogs and digital repositories. But I think that there are definite opportunities to clarify the overlaps and crosswalks to help people create a unified picture. Where I see, I think, the biggest scope for working together to build new standards might be in better capturing the decisions, and the signals of intent to acquire or digitize or preserve, or place into robust long-term storage. There are beginnings of those conversations there have been long-term conversations in the shared print communities and elsewhere. And I think I see a real opportunity here to build out the standards infrastructure to better support that type of conversation in a way that is open and not locked into a particular platform. A lot of what we wish to do with CCLP is less about building a piece of software and more about trying to figure out how we can have a resilient network of organizations and technology platforms to make it easy to slot together systems when they need to support emergent crises of different kinds.
Right. Thank you for that, Sebastian. We have a question from Francis. Natalia, this is actually for you. I know your assistant is there. I am going to put this in the chat, right, Natalia, so your assistant can help. She's asking, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's a he or him, she, but is there a list of reports on Ukrainian libraries that are active in this effort, I guess? Is there a list of libraries like that? Hold on, I'm putting it in the, yeah, I'm putting it in the chat, Natalia. So, okay. Okay. And while we wait for Natalia and her assistant, there are other topics that I wanted to surface today. So Boaz and Sebastian, what would you say to right now to libraries and institutions that are seeing the video and you are talking about your effort? What would you suggest to them as far as coming together? You know, as you said, Boaz, sometimes it's like the whole enthusiasm and energy around projects like that, but then how would that really translate into a reality in a way that works for everyone?
So that's a great question. So CCLP, as Sebastian started talking about, we had 6 different working groups that dealt with various aspects of the collection's life cycle, from selection to preservation. We probably need to continue that effort because, you know, like we have spent 3 years in the recommended practice around standards missing, and all of that is going to be established in the coming weeks, going to be published, and we're looking for feedback. But thinking about librarians' involvement can be as much as like thinking together about how to go about things, but it can be much more practical about, you know, which standards need to happen, what metadata we can gain, how do we make this metadata interoperable, So there is something for any, it seems to me, any librarian that is interested in engaging. We are definitely looking for more funding. This is a big project that, can be using more support to make it all work out. So we are at this point relying on some institutions that feel strongly that that's a very important initiative for them. We're going to be looking for grant funding and other things we can do together. But the best way to get there is to get in touch with us, and we'll make sure that there is a place for you.
Right, that's wonderful. Sebastian, one more technical question or around technicalities, I guess. Do participating libraries in this project and others need a specific infrastructure, or do they need to, have special skills within their teams to participate, or no, or they just sign up and work with you? How does that work?
I think there was a lot of effort in the grant-funded project that precedes this effort to think about usability, and our entire sort of understanding of the workflows that might be needed to support collaborative collection management were explored by having a UX expert working with subject matter experts from different areas of library collection management. So we'd like to think that the prototypes we've developed and the system that we're trying to put together is going to be sort of friendly and self-explanatory, and shouldn't require anything shared beyond access to a web browser. So I would say again that the real focus is on enabling people to work together ultimately. And then we spend a lot of time thinking about all of the different types of data that we might need to pull together, which is very technical in nature, and which becomes overwhelming. And what does it really look like to try to make information available for people to make decisions? I think one thing to note here is that despite the current trends in technology these days, there really has been very little focus or conversation about things like AI tools. I think that it is, as much as those tools can be helpful down the road, I think it is absolutely critical to start with the people and to keep people in the loop of these decisions. Because ultimately there's a lot of the role of librarianship in all of this that I think that we are trying to empower and amplify by providing the best possible information about what is out there and what your peers in the community are doing.
Yeah, that's right. Alicia, you wanted to ask a question. Why don't you go ahead? I can see your question.
Well, the Russian aggression in Ukraine is not the only, is unfortunately not the only political issue facing libraries today. So I was reflecting about the sort of abrupt changes in policy and funding in the United States. And Boaz and Sebastian, you've described IMLS and how fundamental it has been to enabling your work, and that is now a valued resource that is removed. So how can we support you to keep this initiative moving forward? You talked about grant funding and the like, but are there any urgent needs that we should be aware of? And I know this is not a unique position for you. Other American colleagues will be in a similar situation. But could you say something about that?
I can try. Definitely, the changes in IMLS impacted this project heavily. We were hoping to gain a second grant, a national leadership grant, to start the movement from prototyping to production. And at this point, we're looking for additional funding to get there. As I said, there is some, but we're looking for more. And the IMLS, in particular, was very good to us. There was an American emphasis naturally for an IMLS-funded project that now is removed because we're looking for other resources that support such a thing. And in this particular case, it sounds like, or we feel that there are more options than before to find funding and supporters across the world that are not tied to an IMLS funding as before. We have quite a bit of interest from Canadian colleagues and other European institutions, obviously, as well as the CLOCKSS and otherwise. What we can do is have a conversation. Like, I think because this is a social infrastructure more than anything, I think at this point, as much as we want to talk about CCLP, we want to understand how CCLP can help other organizations to be successful, because this is a diffused infrastructure that hopefully going to be allowing more sustainability all over. I think that both Sebastian and I are looking for a conversation and an understanding of the other organizations that are interested in helping, and then seeing if CCLP can serve the many and not just, in a particular way. So I'd say learning more, how do we fit this picture is going to be great. I don't know, Sebastian, do you have more to add to this?
This is in some ways maybe less specific, and normally it's my job to be the more specific of me and Boaz. But Alicia, I mean, you were talking about the situation in the United States, and I think that there are in some ways similar things going on elsewhere in Europe as well. And I think that the roots of CCLP probably goes back to a vision of trying to build a network organization around libraries that somewhat mirrors what is going on with activities like resource sharing and interlibrary loan, where libraries are very comfortable working in networks. And there has been a wish for a long time to try to extend that model into the ways that libraries work together to manage collections. I think that the urgency around rescue collecting has certainly in part been inspired by the stories we've heard from Ukraine, but it is as much about what we have seen happening in Europe and in the United States. So funding for libraries have been curtailed. We have seen in the United States threats and sort of online bullying of librarians trying to do their job. We have seen organized attempts to ban books that somehow don't fit what one political group or another isn't happy with. And I feel, at least personally, in a way that I haven't felt in past decades, that libraries do play a role in preserving or stabilizing democracy, and capturing something about the relationships, the things we mean together within a society. We've always said that librarians were a kind of clue or a pillar of democracy. That has taken on a meaning that I don't think it had for a lot of us 10 years ago. And I think we are trying to be responding to that as well, and to think in some ways about there is a role that librarians have that is almost activists, that has a similarity to what journalists are supposed to do, that gets lost in the everyday sort of scrum of just keeping a library's doors open. And I think we're trying to figure out how to create an online or digital space to make room for that kind of collaborative activism as well. And so there is a part of what we do that is building collaborations and networking together around what does that technology need to be like? What do we need to do as a network of independent organizations to support each other when there is a crisis like this that might threaten some group or part of us?
Right. That's really interesting. And I also think one thing that came to my mind, and we're going to close this discussion and open it up to our participants, is that in times where budgets are so tight and there is a need to cut on redundancy, right? And the more we work together and collect together, the less money is spent on duplicating efforts. Okay, and Natalia is just sent us a message, but I'm going to read it. Public libraries of Ukraine in the context of Russian armed aggression. Results of the 30th stage of the study are now public, and I've put the link that Natalia shared in the chat. You can click on that and it will take you to the report. Okay, so I would like to thank the panelists and now open up the floor. You can do it through the chat and you can do it through the Q&A if there are any questions. Oh, we have Sarah. That's wonderful of you. Thank you. She's sharing a powerful documentary. Sarah, I will pop it in the chat for everybody, if that's okay with you. I haven't seen it. I don't see the title, but Sarah is sharing with us this documentary. Any questions from our audience? Okay. Looking for signals or hands raised or chat. All right. So I think with that, we're almost out of time. I would like to thank all of you. Again, there are very, very useful links in the chat. If you would like to help, Alicia put the link to the fund. And I think it's the American Library Association or something. Yeah, right. Other links include a link to the video on the CLOCKSS YouTube channel. You can go there to watch it. Please also be patient with us. It will take us a couple of days to upload this recording to our YouTube channel as well. Please check in with us in the middle of next week. I'm sure we will have that ready. In the meantime, Natalia's video is there, and you are welcome to share that video. And before we close, I want to thank Boaz and Sebastian for the great work that you're doing and the efforts that you're putting in really collective collection development, and especially in crisis. I want to thank Natalia for being here, for being so brave and being here, and for providing more information to our participants. And Alicia, you and I have a lot of work to do. I'm sure you are up for it.
And thank you, Gali, for the compassionate conversation and for convening us and really championing attention in this space. It's really great leadership.
Thank you. Thank you all, and we'll see you soon in our next webinar. Thank you for participating, and see you in November. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.